Good morning, Big Brother Hometowns Viewing Lounge. I am CLC, and we're back for now. What is this, day 10? A day 10 morning 2 with CLC, where we spill everything BBH 14. Oh, this season just really, I say it, and I know it's not true, but this season just can't get any better. It just continues to keep delivering. I honestly don't know who created this podium twist on production, but whoever did needs a raise, as if we get paid anything. What was it, Josh? Let's bring him in. I might be the Danielle train, but he is.
I'm the Danielle train conductor. Okay, so I think that no one really knows exactly who created the podium twist.
No.
I know Max had some say in it. I think that I had a little bit of creation behind it. Maybe Dan and I had talked about some things. Max said it kind of came together in some way. But it is delivering some things that's just so simple. Take notes, other games. It's just the simple things.
Truly, we literally gave these people an inch, and my God, every week, other than the first week. Like the first week was, even the first week, no, because Tommy blew
We're
it
still
up.
talking about it.
We're still talking about it, but yeah, every round, someone either wins a block of vote that becomes a big storyline, or a target wins safety, and
even when the block of vote itself does not mean anything.
Literally, it's so good, so good. Alrighty, but we can't ascend into the gloriness that is BBH 14 day 10 without the one, the only Lee Farrell.
Hello, I did not create the podium twist. I would just like to probably credit, I don't know, maybe the Olympics. I don't know. Maybe.
Maybe.
Good point.
You say that, but I feel like they copied us first. I also did not create the podium twist. Didn't do that. Did not do that. All right. We're all talking about her. We might as well start with her. Danielle obliterates this HOH. Obliterates these people. I think Ryan said it. Everyone else's combined time was only 2 minutes longer than Danielle's individual time. She fucking eats.
She does.
During the day, she wants to nominate Daniel for sure, but possibly Abby, but she's kind of dealing with this inner dialogue because she kind of promised Nikki that she would not nominate a woman, but she just doesn't really fuck with Abby and really wants to put her up on the block. Well, doesn't matter, Danielle, because Abby wins safety. Abby wins safety, and Tommy, for the second time this season, has won the block of votes. So Abby is safe again. Here we are again with a target winning safety. It's funny because I don't think Abby really realizes that she needed the safety. Again, we talk about this.
I think that anyone who lands on the podium should just assume that they were in danger at this point, because it has always delivered.
Consistently at this point. And that's the thing with Abby is she's she on the block early into round 3, but thought she had the votes to stay. She's still only Tommy and Daniel thought she'd go home. She thought she was fine. She thought she could rally the votes. No.
It's a real shame that we only have one more round left of the podium twist before it fades off into jury phase. But it's the little things, like I said. So they'll find another reason to make this things fantastic for us.
Exactly. So let's move into kind of the craziness that, again, because this cast loves to do nothing all day. We announce something to the house, or something happens monumental in the house, and then they just scramble for hours on end. It's exhausting. I enjoy having my day off, and then as soon as 6-7 p.m. hits, these people go to work. So Danielle wins. She is set. Danielle is going on the block. There is nothing anybody can tell her. She's ultimately really upset because in round 3, her name was going around. Was probably the biggest name going around other than Lance. And she was not very happy with the fact that Daniel still used the veto on Abby despite Danielle's name being around. She takes it as an attack on her, being yeah, we're cool, but you basically just said you were content with losing me. You were content with AJ possibly nominating me and sending me home. So that don't fly with me, and on the block you go. So Daniel's our first lock nominee. Do you agree with this logic?
Yes. So much so, yes. This is like I'm not gonna read Daniel for filth quite yet, but we will. Don't worry. But for Danielle, like, you are looking at thing A and thing B and thing C and all these facts of things that happened, things information you've gotten, that all point back to the fact that Daniel was willing to have you go on the block. And the truth is he was, and had no issue putting Danielle on the block. And Danielle likely is someone on Daniel's radar. Well, AJ's the prime suspect on Daniel's radar if Daniel were to have won HOH. But even if not, like, Danielle is on the list of people that could get nominated if need be.
Yeah, and I will say, speaking of AJ, we talked about how AJ stock definitely goes down, I think, after last round. But I don't know that this could have gone any better for AJ, because AJ is literally the person.
We lost you.
Sorry. Yeah, no, we're good. Okay. So AJ's literally the person that lit a fire under Danielle's ass to get back into the game and really make her game what it is now. So, I mean, she owes him largely a credit for what she's doing now, and I imagine she's going to value him and keep him by her side throughout the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll get into, some people might disagree with that sentiment, but I absolutely agree with Danielle that AJ takes a big part in Danielle really waking up in this game. Someone needs to clue her in that, like, what you're doing is not working. I agree with the logic on Daniel, though. I will say that, again, Daniel's a little bit out of the loop here. Or no, I mean, she's not really out of the loop super a ton, but, I mean, AJ literally told Daniel, I'm not putting up the house target. So, I mean, Daniel wasn't using the veto knowing Danielle could go up. So, I mean, I do want... But obviously, Danielle doesn't get on the call with Daniel, so Daniel's unable to explain that to her. So I will give Daniel some credit there. But ultimately, at the end of the day here, when you're using a veto with a wild card such as AJ, anybody could have gone up. I mean, hell, he was telling people they were fine, and then they weren't fine. So, I'll play devil's advocate a little bit. But let's move into our other nom, or I guess the other discussions around noms. It seems like her short list is Robert and Tommy out the gate. Just for a lack of connection, and her kind of thinking that both of them were two of the people that threw her under the bus to AJ, being like, put her up, which is true. They both did. It's an accurate read. Ultimately, Angelica lets Robert know as soon as Danielle wins. Angelica's like, hey, you need to go talk to her because she told me yesterday that y'all aren't that close. And Robert does just that. He gets on a call with her, proposes an alliance, and ultimately gets formed. Like, it was a speedy, quick discussion, so we'll get into that alliance. But ultimately, Danielle decides that she doesn't think that he's that well connected other than now to her through this new alliance, which is not necessarily a great read on her part. But she spares Robert and ultimately lands on Tommy because a lot of people had thrown Tommy under, being like, Tommy's after you. Tommy's thrown your name under, which isn't wrong. I'd say, they're painting a little bit of a more drastic picture about Tommy being like this villain who's throwing Danielle under to anybody who breathes, which isn't necessarily who Tommy is. But hey, Danielle, buys it and puts him on the block. Do you agree with this nomination set of Daniel and Tommy for her game?
I will say, if someone waits to approach me with an alliance when I have won HOH, that is a red flag to me. However, on the flip side of that, the people that are involved in that, Angelica, Courtney, and Erica, are people that Danielle trusts. And so going against that and saying, hey, I'm going to nominate Robert anyway, is potentially upsetting those other women in that alliance. But it does make me a little sus of Robert if I'm in that position. So I think, it's kind of like, keep an eye on Robert for now. I don't know that I would totally leave him alone. I think that these noms are still pretty good for Danielle in the grand scheme of things, but I don't think that she should just immediately be trusting Robert because he proposes an alliance conveniently when she's won HOH.
Here's the other thing about the Robert of it all that I found really interesting. I don't know if Carl may have just said this and I missed it, but Danielle comes to, I think, her diary room or somewhere and says something to the effect of, "Oh, Robert's not in any groups. He's all alone. I didn't realize that that this is the." So Robert, convinces her that his position is the same as hers, which is not the case. Which great on Robert. So that's why Danielle ultimately is okay keeping Robert off the block, because she feels like, oh, this is someone that I need, which is, I mean, sure, but it not the greatest. So, but I still think the nominations are good. I think I think the only reason it's not great, I think they're good. I don't think they're great. I think that Robert would have made more sense, but Tommy, the problem with putting Tommy on the block is, for someone like Danielle, who has been on the bottom, you are also putting someone else that is actually on the bottom. Like, Robert sold Danielle the position that Tommy's actually in. And so if Tommy remains on the block tonight, he likely is going to go, which I don't think is super great for Danielle. Actually, I don't think it's good for Danielle at all. The good news is that Tommy apparently did very well on his veto competition last night.
Yeah. I don't know. Danielle realizes how much more protected Daniel is, and that wasn't the correct ally to put him against. But again, with the Robert thing, I think where her read went wrong is she mentions that Robert's on her short list. Immediately and conveniently, he comes to her. And that doesn't set off a flag, but also she thinks he's not well connected, but he immediately has a group of people he wants to put her in alliance with. So that is where the read for me is a little wrong. But I think if I was Danielle, and maybe it's just because she doesn't know who Daniel's allies are, and this is a product of the time that she didn't spend it in the game, it's much smarter to put Daniel up against Jabbar or Courtney. But again, now she's aligned with Courtney, so she has to be very careful about who she's putting Daniel up next to.
Absolutely. And I think her bad read stems from conversations she's having with Lance and with AJ about who is this majority alliance. All three are, well, not really Lance, but AJ and Danielle are aware of the Plague Doctors, which obviously does not include Robert. And then they start to believe that there is the other majority alliance is Daniel, Abby, Tommy, and Courtney, which is not an alliance. It's just kind of the people who are most annoyed with AJ. So it's a great sentiment, but there is no alliance there. But ultimately, because Danielle believes that these are the two big alliances in the game, Robert being in none of them is ultimately what guides her to think, Robert's not connected, but Daniel and Tommy are both of these alliances they think are kind of been running this game as of late. That's where she lands, which is not I agree. I think these noms are fine. I think Danielle's in a good spot for now, but her longevity once we hit top 8 is scary for me. I just don't know if she has those permanent connections to get past that hump, because right now she is absolutely 4th in this new group of 5. Let's talk about it. This new group, Men Are Trash, formed by Robert and also consists of Erica, Angelica, Courtney, and Danielle, basically all the women in the game except for Abby.
Yeah, that's a thing that keeps happening.
Yeah.
The women keep saying, all women except Abby.
Except Abby. Because they're mad that she formed an all-men alliance.
Which I'm really frustrated about, because she didn't form an all-male alliance. She formed an alliance based on the Plague. And they know that. That is not a secret. That is very well known. And they're spinning it as this, Abby formed this all-male alliance with her. I'm like, no, that's not what happened.
And this is where Jabbar is so good, because Jabbar has convinced them. Because to be fair, we talked about this on day 1 and into day 2. It's they formed this alliance and some people are clocking onto it. They're like, it's 5 of the top 6. It's not the top 5 from the Plague, because Daniel was 6th, Danielle was 5th in the Plague, and people were like, oh, well, then why isn't Danielle in this if y'all made a Plague alliance? Well, where's Danielle? And Jabbar's been like, oh, Abby doesn't feel good with Danielle. And that solely was because Danielle plagued her. But that was because Danielle posted in the house chat, and she said, the last person to message me is getting plagued. And Abby was on the call. Abby gets plagued because she didn't follow instructions. But Abby's like, oh,
Yeah.
Danielle must not like me. And Abby's like, well, she can't be in this alliance. And Jabbar's framing Abby for anything under the sun. So that's why Angelica and all the other women are like, oh, she hates women. She left Danielle out because, and blah, blah, blah. But moving on. Lee, what do you have to say?
I think the Men Are Trash alliance is not a good alliance. I will say that, and this kind of gets back to what we were talking about earlier with Danielle's longevity, is that there are two clear sides forming in the house. And so even if you think about whether or not taking a shot at Daniel and Tommy are good or not, it's against the other side. And so this includes people that are on the two sides, and so therefore it's never going to work. And as we've seen, it's already been leaked out. I actually think that Courtney was not a great choice for an addition to this alliance. I get that it was Robert wanting to put all of the women that weren't Abby with him, but I think a much better choice for this alliance instead of Courtney would have been Jack. I think that would have been a very solid group of 5 had they come together. Or even an AJ, because the women that are in this group and Robert and Danielle, since she's the HOH, like they all work well with AJ. I think adding Courtney is a huge misstep in creating this alliance. And I actually think that this, while it doesn't hurt Erica and Angelica's game too much, it is definitely the first of a misstep I see in their game in a while.
I don't understand. I agree completely. I don't understand why Courtney, but with Courtney, she already told Daniel about it within minutes, and Dan
before it was even formed.
Yeah, Dan was talking about this last night in the Discord when we were on a call, listening to some calls and stuff. That this Courtney, Daniel, Jabbar trio is really frustrating because I said it whenever I said it on a tee that they were like the cool kids of the cool kids, because they are. They just like run to each other with everything, and it's this like blind loyalty based on a previous connection that is such bad gameplay. It's just such bad gameplay because you can use your it's not even using your former connections. It's just like sitting back and drinking beers with your former connections and just like and telling everything and just giving everything. I'm just like, what are you gaining from telling them every single thing that happens? It just shows me that Courtney is not investing in the other players in any substantial amount, and frankly, I hope it comes back to bite her.
Yeah.
You go.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, and I don't know at what point it will bite her, but I think even though I think Courtney has a lot of longevity potentially in the game, where this could even bite her is if she's sitting in front of a jury and they realize that the connections she made with the people she didn't know before the game were not that real. And I could see that very much happening for a Courtney, especially in how she's leaking out these alliances. But I don't blame Courtney for why this alliance is not good. I blame that they added Courtney for why this alliance is not good.
That's true. That's true.
I'm not as low on this unnamed alliance between.
I'm not low on the alliance generally.
And I don't think it's horrible gameplay in terms of them telling everyone everything. Like I'm fine with them. You need one person in this game to have like be your person, and like for them maybe it's 2 people. Do I think it's maybe not necessarily the right people? Sure. Like I wouldn't pick Jabbar, Courtney, or Daniel for that matter. Those are not the people I'd be picking. But I'm fine with the alliance. What I'm mad about, and I mean, let's hop into it, is a little bit of a delusion in some of these people, and a little bit of entitlement.
I do want to quickly, Max is saying Courtney sat on call with Robert learning a card game, and that's effort. I think what I'm more referring to is that she is not going to, like, she's just giving up all this information about all these other people instead of holding at least something from these other relationships, like, to herself. If anything of that gets out, which it won't, because those 3 aren't going to tell anyone anything, but if it were, like, Courtney's going to be in a whole lot of trouble. So
and my issue, just to piggyback off of that really quick, is Robert, Angelica, Erica, AJ, even minus what he did last round, Danielle, they are begging to work with Courtney, and she hasn't really given them much reason. They just like her, but they are begging to work with them with her, and they want to do nothing against her, and she's just like, I don't really care. And that's what's so frustrating is these are people that would probably seemingly never turn against her, and she's just going to give them a reason to.
Right.
The fact that she's given them nothing and these people still continue to add her to alliances,
Right,
still
right.
give her information. I mean,
that's missed. That is missed.
That's a queen. That's on her pick. That's on shit. That's on period. And yes, I worry for Courtney down the stretch a little bit as we get into the early parts of the jury. But I think she had yesterday off, and then she has today off. So, and she's putting in effort. I mean, hell, she's had time to sit on a call with Robert for an hour, and she can give a rat's ass about anything Robert was talking about. But hey, what I'm angry about with this alliance is that they kind of they sit back and rest on their pre-connections rather than investing a ton of other people. Jabbar's doing a great job of that, but Jabbar is being a little messy about it. Courtney and Daniel, on the other hand, are far too invested in each other instead of actually like being authentic and genuine and being transparent and their full 100% selves to other people. So let's get into this what I would call the Jamie syndrome, or the main character syndrome that Daniel is having. and I'd even say Tommy and Abby are kind of guilty of this as well. The trio is delusional. They are a little bit entitled. They felt so confident that most people would nominate Lance and AJ out of just sheer respect for themselves, sheer respect for the house, sheer respect for just making the easy move. Since when has anybody done the easy move outside of nominating the two inactive people round one? Not a damn time. And I'm sorry, and these people were convinced AJ would be touching the block. And Daniel and Tommy were livid when they were nominated and AJ's not an option. Why? AJ literally spared Danielle last round. If it was up to y'all would have put Danielle up on the block. And now you're mad that she put you up? Please explain. Let's get into this.
This is the reason I came here today, is to be so frustrated at Daniel's delusion. Like, it's just so maddening that he is convinced that everyone else has to do what is best for Daniel. And yes, getting AJ out, great for Daniel. But he's convinced that, Danielle, you're talking about, you want to protect the women, but you won't put up AJ, the one that put up the women. You won't put up. And this is the line that killed me. And I don't even know the context. I don't even care the context. It's just the way he types this message in his diary room. It sucks not being able to work with Tommy. Then he says, he's an idiot for telling Nikki the alliance and not telling capital me that he told her. I like all this stuff. It's just like it's Daniel. If it's not in Daniel's best interest, how could anyone do that? How is that possible? And it is especially Danielle. You pitched Danielle to people. Danielle's name did go around, and you wanted her out, and now you're mad at putting you on the block and not AJ, the guy who literally saved her. I am losing my mind over the delusion.
Yep.
I can't.
So, in the spirit of really worrying about my friend Josh now and whether he's well or not, I want to also say we talked about this last week and how and I attribute a lot of Daniel's delusion to what started with Tommy's downfall last week. They've been playing very similar games, and I think they feed off of each other a lot. And I think as Tommy started to spiral, I think Daniel has now started to spiral with Tommy, and I think that they are doing this together. So we said it was only a matter of time before Daniel kind of gets pulled down with Tommy, and here we are. They are in the delusion room together. Daniel's leading the charge here, but it is astounding to me. But also, I feel like I've probably been in a similar spot when I've played. But man, the delusion is so good. It's so good. It's so frustrating, but it's so good.
And here's the other thing about Daniel. He is, he's on the block, a little bit back against the wall, but he is there's very few people that are within Danielle's reasonable renominations that don't result in Daniel staying in the game.
Yeah.
Like, he's protected. And so him just like going on this tirade is just so ridiculous. Like, it is not BBH 14 Daniel's story. I mean, Daniel is part of the story. If Daniel goes on to win, maybe I'll take that back. But like, geez Louise.
I wonder, and this may be to be determined, but I know that one of Danielle's potential thoughts, or at least I think a lot of people thought that she would potentially nominate RT, and we haven't really talked about him yet.
We'll get there.
But I wonder, I think Daniel probably would go against an RT unless Angelica and Erica, took the shot there. But I do think that might have been a smarter nom set for her in a sense, because people, were actively throwing RT at a certain point out to Danielle and throwing him under the bus for his potential plan. So it's amazing to me how much he's just hidden.
Yeah, and we'll get into RT.
And the reality is the better move for Danielle, like off the jump, is probably Daniel and a Jabbar, or Daniel and a Courtney, or Daniel and a bigger name. But the fact that she wasn't going to put Abby up, which I think would have been equal to putting Tommy up at this point. And then at that point, she was resigned not to put women up, which I think is fine and great and a good reason. But from the chessboard perspective, that second nominee is tough. And though, granted, we don't even really know who Danielle's target is. Like, I'm posturing as if it is Daniel, but it's not even necessarily Daniel.
Doesn't have one. It seemed like it was Daniel at the very beginning, because she was set on putting up Daniel. But as the day went on, kind of, she felt more against Tommy. And ultimately, Tommy, as you alluded to earlier, Josh, Tommy will go home if he is on the block at the end of the day. Tommy will be going home. So it's a must-win situation for Tommy. Daniel can survive against some other nominations, especially the ones that the one that Danielle has proposed as her renom, but we'll get into that. Danielle does officially nominate Tommy and Daniel. Has one of the spiciest nom videos we've seen in a minute.
Good.
She calls it out. I mean, she calls with Tommy about 8 minutes during the day, and that's like hours before she nominates. She doesn't even call Daniel. Just lets them know ahead of time, like, hey, I'm putting you up and we can talk about it tomorrow. In her nom video, she is like, and some of y'all had some nasty things to say about me in the press last round, didn't y'all? And after talking to some people, Daniel, my life was in danger with you. Tommy, you're in a great position. You're in all these alliances. You're throwing me under. So on the block, you both sit. Like, she spells it out for these people in a tone that is so good. It just really just sets AJ set the tone last round with being like, no, the game has started. And Danielle said, bet, I'm going to even one up that.
We don't have to, but we can watch it if we'd like. I do have that wonderful capability. For those that I think it's worth it. For those that didn't see it.
Yeah. Hey, I'm only sad she didn't write a song for her nominations.
Okay,
started
here we
from
go.
the bottom, now we're here. Hello, everyone. So as HOH, I get to choose who the nominations are this week, or this round. So let's get started. I don't know, like, this round was just very hard for me because, like, I was barely talked to last round because I was a potential threat or target or wherever the fuck. So it was interesting to see, like, who was there for me last round and who wasn't there for me. Right? So I was trying to base it off of that. I was also trying to base off of, like, what I was told yesterday and today about, like, the drama, the tea, the theories of the house.
The theories.
So without further ado, these are my nominations. And no, spoiler, no women. My first nomination is Daniel. I did warn you ahead of time that this would happen, and I'm sorry again. I know Danielle crime. This is messy. But I just knew that I was in danger last round and you used a veto, so that put me in more danger, or like more of a likelihood to be put up, right? So no hard feelings, nothing personal, just feel like that's best for my game. And then the second person I'm going to be putting up is Tommy. I've had great conversations with you. It's just today when I ask around people's theories of who's in an alliance in this game, your name comes up. Who threw my name out last round, your name comes up. Who do you think's in the best position of the game? Your name comes up. So I just feel like that just makes the most sense for me to put you up this round. We're getting deeper into the game. It's not about who we don't talk to anymore. It's more about what are the best decisions for my game. So that is why I'm nominating Daniel and Tommy. I'm sorry. We still have a veto. Best of luck to both of you and everybody that's playing. And let's get this game rolling.
So good.
She kills me. Honestly, just her being like, I talked around and your name came up, and your name came up, and your name came up. It just was so good. It was good.
Just one of the more blunt, point blank, like nomination videos I maybe have ever seen. It was just so clear. All her reasonings, and of course, still Daniel runs around deluded afterwards. But like everything made perfect sense. And my favorite line that she says in the whole thing is like, "We're deeper in this game. It's not about who you talk to or not talk to anymore. This game is happening, and it's time to make some moves." And yeah, you can say, "Oh, but it's only final 13 or wherever we're at." That's we're a week plus into this game. Like, it's time to play it. And she did not mess around, and I am obsessed with her.
I will say, I think Danielle, of all of the HOHs we've had so far, she's taken the biggest shot, but I think we'll have the least blood on her hands because she's been very honest about everything she was planning. She didn't manifest all of these things that she was wanting to do before they actually happened. So she didn't end up cursing herself in terms of what she might do and have all of this information get out of what might have happened had the competition gone differently. And I just imagine all of the house guests watching the video and they're just nodding along like, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Like, even if you're Tommy, and even the delusion aside, like, you have to kind of watch that video along and be like, yeah. But again, the delusion is stepping in here. But her nom video is it's so crisp, so clear, so concise, and it just makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think Dan said it right here. Like, because she's outwardly said it to everybody, this is not something that's ever going to leave Tommy or Daniel, regardless of who stays or if they both stay. It's something people are going to be thinking about for a while and being like, like, this happens.
And last night, Dan also pointed this out. I'm using a lot of Dan's points, but he pointed this out in Jabbar's confessional, where Jabbar essentially said, why are people surprised that people that were on the bottom, AJ and Danielle, are using the opportunities to better their position? Like, they should not be surprised. Like, I was listening to more of Jabbar's confessional and this morning on my way into work, and he was talking about, this was, I think, pre-nominations, and he was saying, like, the logical decision is for Danielle to not put up Lance or AJ and pretty much put up some combination of Ryan, Daniel, which I was shocked to even hear him say that, Daniel and Tommy. And I'm like, man, Jabbar, you just got such good reads. You just got such good reads on this game.
I really enjoy this trend of AJ and Danielle saying, I'm not going to give the house what they want with my noms. And I think that is such forward-thinking gameplay. And I love the fact that even though Daniel and Tommy are super pissed at Danielle right now, she's probably still not their biggest target. I mean, because the way they were trying to serve up AJ on the silver platter, they're still probably going after AJ first and foremost if they win power. And so she is in such a good spot. As of right now, I don't want to curse anything because I think we said the same thing about AJ before he had to go into a renom situation. But this is a really good spot for Danielle. Her recovery and just bouncing back from the less activity of the first couple of rounds, this is remarkable.
Yeah. What I worry for her is her renomination. She said her renom would be Lance.
Yeah, I
Her
don't like that.
her reasoning being because she is in she's now in Men Are Trash, and she feels like she has connections outside of Men Are Trash, specifically to Lance and to not to Lance, to AJ. She thinks that she can rally the votes because she just needs 5. Just needs 5 this round.
Do you think now, though, that she's in that Men Are Trash alliance, that they could try and shift that renom for her?
And that's exactly what I'm hoping that they do. And that's like what I want to get into. Let's talk about Ryan Taylor. I think that the Men Are Trash will convince her to put up Ryan, not to send him home, but to ensure that Daniel or Tommy goes home. I mean, if Tommy's on, like, just to ensure it, just because I think everyone knows Lance is just not in the best position in the house. And most people know that. And if he's on the block, I worry he could go home. I haven't like sifted through and like counted the votes, but it'd be closer than Angelica or Erica would like it to be.
Right.
So I think that they will try to convince them to put up Ryan, because he's in the Plague Doctors. He tried to put up Danielle round 2 if she believes it or not. And ultimately, I do think Ryan would stay in that situation because Angelica and Erica, where he gets put up, it's going to be hard for him not to go. Erica wants to keep him around. Angelica wants to keep him around, not for long. But I think Angelica and Erica had said earlier in the week that they wanted to use this round if Danielle wanted to take a shot at RT to let her. And I think that was at the very beginning, before Danielle started talking about who she wanted up. I can't imagine that people like Angelica and Erica will push for Ryan to go over the likes of a Tommy or over the likes of a Daniel. They definitely do not have in their back pocket. They do not have it all. So it's going to be intriguing to see, because Tommy did do very well in the veto. I mean, obviously, everyone else has to compete.
Right.
I will say, I think that putting RT up as a renom is really smart for Angelica and Erica, because as sus as they have been on him, having to watch RT campaign and having to watch him give up a little bit more information for his safety, I think is something that they need to either be assured of their spot with him or confirm that they're not with him. And I think that putting him in a place where he's vulnerable is the only way that they're going to get him to let that guard down and open up.
I don't think Dan just said it. Dan said the locked votes for sure for Dan. Assuming Tommy is to come off the block, which as of right now is a pretty surefire bet right now. Courtney, Jabbar, Tommy, and Abby would all save Daniel. I agree. Just need Lance or Jack to flip. Ryan has done work with Jack. He made a final 2 with him last night. Now he made a final 2 with Erica last night, which Erica's not going to die. But ultimately, I mean, Jack's not going to flip. AJ and Lance are close. AJ would prefer Daniel to go. I think AJ would tell Lance, no, Daniel needs to go. Like, I really don't. I think Daniel would go home in a 5-4 here. It's close. It's closer than comfort. But I think Angelica, Erica, Lance, Jack, AJ, and I'm forgetting somebody in the house because I'm terrible. Because someone will get their vote blocked, and Tommy obviously is going to block somebody to benefit Daniel in that situation. Who am I forgetting? Who did I not mention? Who is and Robert Rigler. I just don't see it. I think putting up Ryan, it's a close vote, but we'll send Daniel or Tommy out of the house regardless if there is a renom necessary. I don't see that for Lance, and I hope that they can convince Danielle not to do that, because I worry for Lance's safety. I mean, and that's just not a good round. No.
Well, and as we've seen with Lance in the past, people, they may have the numbers, but it just takes Lance saying one thing to rub someone the wrong way. And because they're already not that connected to Lance, they just say, okay, you know what? I'm just going to evict Lance. It doesn't matter.
I mean, there's something he said, and I mean, I don't really have much to say left about Ryan. Lance started saying stuff to probably not the right people here, is when Danielle... Yeah, Erica does want to bring Lance to the end. But I mean, I think a lot of people want to bring Lance to the end.
Of course he does. I want to bring Lance to the end.
Same. Yeah, he's my ideal final too.
Yeah.
No, he when Danielle, because Danielle called Lance almost, I think he was the first or second call she had after winning HOH. And he was asking, like, hey, what's going on? And she's like, I'm not putting up any women. Number one. He ran around and told everyone and their mom, he's like, I hope this doesn't become a gender war. Oh, Lance, you, a privileged man in this game. God forbid 2 men go up on the block in BBH 14. I'm so sorry that you've been sitting so pretty as the first 7 nominations have all been women. I am so sorry that you are fearing a gender war.
It just begs the question once again: is Lance in the house? The observations Lance makes.
He kills me. Kills me. And he's saying this to women. He's saying this to like Courtney. He's like, hey, Courtney, I hope this doesn't become a gender war. Courtney is all about this women ride together, send the men the fuck home. Women plus our one non-binary house guest. It's like, that's the alliance minus Abby.
Not Abby
is literally our 4 women minus Abby plus our non-binary house guest. It's like they want the men to go home. So Lance, you going and being like, I fear that the men might be targeted for the foreseeable future. Telling that to the women is not a good move.
Where have you been the past 3 rounds, Lance?
He kills me. He kills me.
I said every day. It's every day. It's what did Lance do? What did Lance say today? Oh man.
The last storyline that kind of really unfolds near the end of the day, which is after Daniel and Tommy get nominated, and based on Danielle's veto speech or a nomination speech, which says like, who's in the most alliances? Tommy. And now the Plague Doctor start thinking, do they know? Does she know? Of course she knows. I mean, the whole house knows about this Plague Doctor's thing, but some people are still in the dark. Daniel's completely in the dark that a lot of people know about this. Tommy and Abby as well. And they start to talk into trio being like, who leaked this? Is it RT? Is it Jabbar? It's definitely Jabbar. Jabbar's leaked it to everybody. Or at least indirectly by leaking it to somebody who then told everybody. Jabbar works his magic and convinces Daniel. Oh, no. Tommy told Nikki, who told Danielle about the Plague Doctors, which is not true. Tommy did not tell Nikki at all about the Plague Doctors. Danielle found out through Angelica through Angelica, who found out through Robert, who found out through Jabbar. Everyone who has found out about this stems from Jabbar. And he does a great job in framing Tommy and really pitting Daniel and Tommy, not necessarily against each other, but Daniel now has doubts about Tommy. And if they are both to somehow survive this round, I am intrigued to see how much Daniel starts sharing with Tommy.
And it's always a good move to include in that chain of blame someone who's not there to defend themselves anymore. Not that they're saying Nikki did anything wrong here, but when you say Tommy told Nikki, you can't fact check that. And so that's always such a good move. And I was really impressed that Jabbar made that connection, because the buck stops there and they're like, okay, well, Nikki blew up a big alliance, so it makes sense. And the logic is really good there.
No, absolutely. And I think hopefully, finally, please God, can this be the death of the Plague Doctors? Despite, I think people, I think Abby sent a good morning message to it this morning. I could be wrong on that.
Oh, nice.
But they definitely were talking last night after nominations. It's like, y'all don't trust each other. Stop talking in this chat. Like, stop it. Like, everyone universally knows that this is just a dead chat, but they just keep milking.
Get ready for your postseason Plague Doctors merch.
Oh no!
I can see the design already.
Please no.
But with that, we end day 10 with Daniel and Tommy on the block. The people playing in the veto, which is it's not an ideal veto picks for our nominees here. Unlike last week where it couldn't have gone better. This week we have obviously the nominees and Danielle playing alongside Jabbar, who's not using it because he knows Tommy will go home, because he wants Daniel to himself and wants Tommy out of here. So Jabbar's not using it, along with AJ and Lance, who absolutely, under no circumstances, will be using this power of veto.
Right.
So today we will be conducting the 5 Fates of Fortune power of veto, which has a little bit of luck to it. For those who have not played it or did not follow it last season, or have not played it with Cutthroat. Not this. They basically they'll be competing. They have 10 minutes to do 5 different challenges. I believe it is math equations, word unscrambles, flip cup, cup jump, and building 3, 2, 1 pyramids. Basically have 10 minutes to do as many of what they can do in those 5 categories. After the time is up, we'll count up how many they did. And then after everyone's done, we'll spin a wheel to decide what category will be graded first. And whoever is the lowest in that category is eliminated. So you have to spend your time efficiently so that will keep going until there's only one person left. So you need to be efficient with your time and making sure you're spreading the love across all the categories. Because if you are the lowest in one category but the highest in the rest of them, you'll still lose this power of veto. So you have to be well-rounded and smart with how you spend your 10 minutes. So while Tommy did very well, we still have a lot of time left to see what will happen in a must-win situation for Tommy. Anything else you want to discuss that happened before we get into what I can see lurking in the StreamYard?
I'm good. I got my rant out of the way. I guess I never qualify it. We always qualify it. Daniel, I think you're fantastic, and like I've enjoyed watching you play and getting to know you. But yesterday was something.
Lee, anything?
No, I mean, I still say, and I said this a lot in the VL yesterday, I'm so sad that we missed out on a slight power trip from Lands. Like having the vote block and seeing what that could have done to spiral him into this just grandiose sense of self. I really hope we get to see this happen before the podium twist ends, that he gets this little
round.
sprinkle of power.
Yeah.
And it would be so good.
Yeah. Well, we had a request from the audience that we have one clip shown on Morning Tea from yesterday. If you're in the VL, which you all are, of course, you may have seen it. But if you missed it, this was a moment from Robert's attempted head of household competition just a day ago. They had to balance that position as long as possible, and then
I'm ready.
Okay, I'm starting your time now. So good.
Amazing.
I don't know. I'm always like, oh no, it's my.
Oh no!
Which is great because he was so worried, and you don't see for 20 more seconds. He's like, "Oh my god, do I need to like get the cat?" I'm like, "You're fine. Your audio's on, so I can hear if the cubs."
I'm always like, oh no, it's my.
Truly so good.
That is officially going on the highlight reel. That's officially going on the countdown highlight reel very soon.
Absolutely, so good.
But that is all we have for day 10 for those in our VL. Be on the lookout for new veto results as they come throughout the day. We're going to be having 2 back-to-back, Daniel and Danielle. So we'll have the noms and the HOH done within the hour. So be on the lookout for those. Continually rank your people and jokers. Check out the production and Edgic. That's all up to date. But Tonight, so we'll be having a mess report. I don't know if we've agreed on a time yet. It'll be after 7, so either maybe 8. I think we'll have a mess report that will cover days 5 through today. So days 5 through 10. So it'll be me, Mitchell Stokes, Crystal. Who else? I don't know. Maybe more people. I don't know.
I think maybe Dan.
Maybe Dan. Who knows? I mean,
probably not me.
Just come for Crystal.
Yeah.
Because we all love Shady Crystal, and she'll probably be looking bomb, and I'll be looking homeless. And we love that.
Shady Crystal is the best crystal.
Truly is, and we have a lot to shade. If you haven't remembered from days 5 through 10, plenty to discuss. But for the BBH himself, Josh Consalvo, for the villain of key holder, Lee Farrell, and for me, CLC. That is all for the tea today. I'll see you for more tea tomorrow at 10:30. Stay thirsty, my friends. Bye.